Greetings, seniors. Hope you guys have had a good weekend, um, and you and your families are doing well. So today I want to walk us through, do a check-in on where we are in terms of our calendar, and then get us started on the Shakespeare multi-genre project, which I'm really excited about, just to see how you're going to be working with your play and really using different lenses and skills of the writing genres you've learned to deepen your appreciation of Shakespeare. So let us begin by just refreshing our memory where we are on the calendar. So just to remind you where we left off. So on Friday, your one to do during the day was to take that practice test. That is still open if you haven't yet taken it. Well, I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon, so if you haven't yet taken it, do that ASAP. The people who have taken it, I've been really impressed. There have been a lot of people who are, on pace to pass that multiple choice section. Let me know if you did not get your score for that, because I will be happy to send it to you, so you can see how you did. And then over the weekend, remember your assignment was to watch a film version of the play. I've already looked over some letters. They've looked really good. And I will work to get those back to you as soon as I can. So as soon as you get the letter in, turn it in, I will write you back or give you audio feedback right on turn it in so you can see and we can start an interaction there. But that was last week, and this is this week. If you look, we are starting the multi-genre research of your Shakespeare play. So you've now had a chance, hopefully, to watch the film version. You've written me a letter about it. You're getting some feedback on, the play, and you're just kind of getting your feet wet with it. And if you look over this week, we're going to be reading a couple of acts of the play. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. And then as we lead into next week, right, you're going to continue each day of class. You're going to read an act and then generate a different genre of the play. So that the hope is, and this is a plan, subject to change as with anything, that leading into the spring break, you would actually have read all of Shakespeare's plays. So you've seen it, you've gotten a grip on sort of the overall story, and then over the next 2 weeks, you're going more in detail over each of the acts of the play. So you really have an understanding of the language as well, which is going to be really important leading into your AP exam. That you've got, a classic work of English literature under your belt for that AP test. So that's the overall game plan. So let's think about today's homework assignment. So today's work, it says to generate an original response of your choice to the play by Tuesday, 11:59. So I'm going to direct you to the second document link that you've got on Schoology. And this really is an expansion of things that we've done. I'll read some of this with you and then explain what you're looking at. So this is the beginning of multi-genre project, Shakespeare play of your choice. As we did with the poetry synthesis essay, we're going to apply multiple different genres to better understand a single topic, in this case Shakespeare. This time, though, instead of an individual poet, we'll be using the multi-genre approach to better understand a single play of William Shakespeare. So that is whatever play you've chosen, that's the topic that we're going to look at from these different lenses. We only had 8 to 10 different choices back in December for our first multi-genre project. To give you more freedom and to push you to learn more genres and to reflect more deeply on the play you chose, I'm going to have you write from a wider variety of genres. And I'm really excited about this because the truth is, you're going to be firing all these different cylinders to learn more about the text that you've chosen. And you're really ready for this as seniors and having gone through this writer's workshop model for the first part of the year. For each day of class, you'll be responsible for 3/4 to 1 page of a genre piece and a 2 to 3 sentence endnote. So the endnote's going to be a lot shorter. I'm not asking you to write 2 paragraphs or anything like that. But I do want to know, why did you choose the genre that you picked, and what do I want to be able to express about my play through this genre? So I want you to be intentional and just writing me a quick note for each of those. And so every time that you have a multi-genre, a genre to pick and write about your play, there's going to be a turn it in tab, and it's going to be for daily practice points each time. So just like we had with the poetry synthesis essay, I don't want you falling behind. And it's really important that each day you do, an amount of reading, and then you do some creative writing on a genre of your choice. Now, I pulled these options from a high school English teacher who also really does the multi-genre with her students, Wisconsin high school teacher. But these are only some of them, and I want you to feel free to create your own genre option. If you feel like, you know what, there's something on here. I mean, I can think of lots of social media that you know about that I might not be that familiar with, and that could be a genre just off the top of my head. But there are lots of other genres you could think of too. So don't hesitate to create a new genre if you feel like what I've got here doesn't fit you. So I'll give you a moment. You've got this link too. If you want to either be looking here on the YouTube video or on the link. And if you feel like, ooh, you know what? I've got an idea already for my play that I've chosen. I'd like to do this. So these are some of your options. And you'll notice I put in parentheses, over the next 2 weeks, you're going to have these different assignments to pick a genre after you have read an act of the play. And I'd like you to have the focus is really on literary, creative, and functional, so at least two from each of those, and less so on informational, because we'll do some more research on the Shakespeare play after the break. But I do want you to do at least one information. So, um, one of the things that I think is going to be really helpful, um, as you're kind of again continuing to get your feet wet with Shakespeare, is the text itself. So, before we move on to the next part, of actually creating a genre, I just want to do a little preview of something I'm sure you've seen before. This is No Fear Shakespeare. Um, Now, some students are like, "What? Mr. Zai is directing us to Spark Notes? What?" Um, this is actually a really helpful site when you're first getting your feet wet, with Shakespeare, especially because what's really cool, and I've chose King Lear. That was my play. What's really cool about Spark Notes, No Fears, is they give you the original text right here, all right, which is what you're going to get, for example, if you had any Shakespeare in the AP exam. But in order that you can understand the language better, it always gives you the modern text as well. So when I give you those assignments of the first act of the play, right? I encourage you to read both, because this is an AP class. I do want you to push yourself, to read the original language, but I also recognize that original language is tricky. So the modern text is right there for you. So you can just kind of skim down. Here's the opening scene of King Lear, again, which I chose. Um, Now, for today's assignment, you don't actually have to read any of the play yet. I would just invite you to take a look at kind of what you're seeing, with the play that you've chosen. Tool around on the site. Like, for instance, Lear, you've got a little study guide. There's a summary. There's key questions. You don't need to dive into the original acts, but maybe you want to look at some of the characters, some of the main ideas, important quotations. I'd kind of use this opportunity to tool around on the site. Um, so I'm trying to think what I did here. I was looking at this earlier. Um, yeah, what does justice mean in King Lear? Quotations, further study. Yeah. So there's a lot of different things I could look at. I'll just give you an example of one context. Um, we've got this is Shakespeare as an author. That wasn't the one I was looking for. um, Primogeniture. So this play is really all about what happens, when an individual king decides who he's going to pass the property down to. Um, and in this case, King Lear, he has to choose between his three daughters. And the way he divides up the kingdom really makes for problems, right? So this is really cool. It gives you some background on the historical background of primogeniture, this idea of, how does the law at the time require kings to pass down property. So, if that's your play and it wasn't mine, right? This is a really great thing that I could read before I even dive into the play. So that's really what I'm asking you to take a look at for your own play is, tool around in the site, the SparkNote site just to see what would be a resource to kind of get you into the play. Maybe there's a question that you're struggling with. Um, and that can be your text for today that can generate your multi-genre project. So here's what I want to do in the last 5 minutes of my video. So I've got this text that I've looked at. I've read this, before I started the video. And then I've got, if we go back here, I've got three choices, right? I can do an informational, I can do a literary creative, I can do a functional. So I'm just going to give you, like I often do in class, when you start a genre for quick write, I'm just going to just show you how I might start a couple of different genres just to give you some ideas of possibilities. So, for instance, informational, I chose advice column. Um, Let me just give you an example of that. So the main character, King Lear, um, has decided to actually give most of the land, all the land, to his two daughters that are more scheming. They are not morally pure. They don't really care about him, and he cuts out of his will the daughter who really loves him, Cordelia. And so he's kind of in this heartbroken stage of like not really having any power and not really being cared about or by the two daughters who he gave all the land to. So I imagine he would be in a situation where he might be very sad and broken down. He is sad and broken down. So I might say what if he writes to um, the fool is a character in Shakespeare's play who's like kind of a companion, a jester in the court to the king. What if he wrote to the fool as if the fool was an advice columnist, right? Dear fool, right? Uh, these times are tough. I think I might have made a very, very big mistake. I hadn't realized that Cordelia wouldn't have it in her to flatter me. And now I've given all my land to the daughters who don't care about me. What should I do now? Right. Okay, now the fun part for this would be to actually, get into fool's response, right? Yeah. Oh, and maybe I know like advice columnists, they often don't give their real name. What if I said, confused and sad in 16th century Britain? Okay, this is kind of cheesy, right? Just like it is in class, right? Um, so, and then I could get into, as a fool, as an advice columnist, how would he respond? The fool is a he in the play, and then I'd keep going with that. So that's really one example. Is the advice column. I can see just by looking at my screencast-matic clock, I've only got about a minute left. So I'm not going to dive into each of the next ones, but I will jot down so you can see on Schoology some of my, just a start on each of them. But I was thinking, what if I did a fable, right? Like, once upon a time, there was a king with three daughters, right? So that might be, I'll just put once upon a time to give me like a start. There was a king with three daughters, right? So I know I could start a fable that way. And then the other one, oh yeah, cover letter. What if I pretended I was the fool and I was applying for a job? I thought that could be kind of fun. So these are just three random ideas that came to me. I gave some more in depth on this one. But I will showcase a little more